6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Peace, everyone. Welcome to the Friday Listening Party. I'm Eric Leo 108, author, rapper, philosopher, and today I'm debuting my brand new track like I do every Friday. This week's drop is called Thriller. Before we jump in, drop where you're watching from and let me know if you've read the blog post at fiance.com/blog. Check out the store. I could really use your support. If you hear something in the track that hits you, type it in the comments. Let's go bar for bar. This live stream features my original song Thriller and a blog post I wrote about it. The lyrics contain language, political critique and references to violence, but this is artistic expression and social commentary, not a call to action. Nothing here should be taken as instructions or encouragement for real world violence. The purpose is to spark discussion about politics, culture, and society through music and words. The song is meant for entertainment and educational purposes. This type of rhetoric was intentionally released in October for the Halloween holiday season. Okay. Who made the beat? Tantu Beats. Does anybody feature on it? No. Is it Cosmic Love? No. Any other announcements? Not that I can think of. We're just gonna get into it. I can't play the full thing, but we're gonna listen to part of it. So this is part of Thriller, and I'll explain it. What are you, a colonizer? Why the fuck do you care? I could give a fuck about it, let them be about healthcare. Let people die, cause it makes money. That's the motto. That's been running. So we have a we have a hold on. Let people die because it makes money. That's the motto that's been running. With healthcare denials in the United States, if it makes money, it's okay to deny people's health and kill people as long as corporations are making money. That's structural violence. Um, so yeah, that's the kind of thing that I'm revolting against here, um, where you say human life matters, but it only matters if it doesn't affect power. I guess I should thank Reagan for the inequality, record homelessness, record profiting. So Ronald Reagan, was a terrible president. Um, we're still feeling a lot of the effects of him today. I guess I should thank Reagan for the inequality. We have the inequality we have today because of Ronald Reagan, specifically because of trickle down economics. Um, that still hasn't been addressed. Things like I can't move to Kalamazoo because I've been on a waiting list for 3 years. He disabled the housing department, so people can't move to an area to get a better job because they can't afford it. Things like that. It all started with Reagan. Um, People don't realize that because they have the attention span of a 2-year-old in America, but it's Reagan's fault. So why we have record profiting, we're the wealthiest nation that's ever been, but we're also the most highly stratified, which means unequal, and we have a bigger wealth gap than there's a bigger wealth gap than during the French Revolution. The money come from, I don't know. The rich play coy, but they really hoard billionaires of bitches that didn't work for their money. I talk about this in my book, Farming Humans, that billionaires don't work for their money, they invest for their money, and they make what the American government recognizes as literal unearned income. They make it on capital gains, profits, and dividends from stocks. They don't work for their money. Billionaires do not work for their money. Nobody gets a billionaire from working. They do it from investing, they do it from businesses, they do it from capital gains and dividends and stocks. You can't work They exploit labor. That's how they make their money. They take they take what other people have worked for and they claim it as their own. That's how billionaires make their money.
Shouldn't exist, but this is shitty country.
So billionaires shouldn't exist. They should be taxed out of existence. They should pay 99% in taxes above a billion. But we don't do that because it's a shitty country. America's a shitty country that doesn't regulate capitalism like it should, like Adam Smith would want, or other major economic figures would want. We don't follow that. We have a protectionist economy which protects billionaires.
Infinite expansion in the finite world. Our doctrine is designed to destroy our worth.
So infinite expansion in a finite world, our doctrine is designed to destroy our worth. So we have this, our economic doctrine at its base is 2% growth every year, and that's infinite expansion, but the world is finite. So how can we have, and it's, what that does is it destroys the ecology. So infinite expansion in a finite world, our doctrine is designed to destroy our worth, our real worth, which is our environment, which is non-renewable resources. And we're using them all up for future generations. Yeah.
For their money. They shouldn't exist, but this is shitty country. Infinite expansion in the finite world. Our doctrine is designed to destroy our worth.
So this is just like, it's good on paper or whatever because you create wealth, but it's just money. It's just like, money's not real though. Like the environment is real. Like where you live, pollution is real. Like things like this are real. Money is not real, but that's what we're focused on because our economic doctrine is shit.
The billions they made wasn't worked for. It's all possible by extracting labor. I have to hold back bars about America.
So it's all possible by extracting labor. Like again, billionaires don't get where they are working. They have to extract value from some other source. We all have the same 24 hours, but they just exploit labor. They get people to work for them to make money, and then they take that surplus value and claim it for themselves. So yeah.
America's ass dog, your public morality is fucking garbage.
I have to hold back bars about. I did hold back, and this was like really pretty. Some people wouldn't see it as extreme, but it's not. It's just the truth and what America ignores and put in an aggressive manner. Your public morality is garbage. It's Christo-fascism. America without real morals or ethics. So it's exploiting people while calling it what Jesus would have wanted while ignoring Jesus' teachings.
Christianity without the teachings of Jesus. Racist fascist nationalism is what they were teaching. What the fuck happened? We fought a war over this.
Racist fascist nationalism is what they are teaching, which like ever since Trump got a hold of the education system, that's what they're teaching. And then I go on to say, what the F happened? We fought a war over this. Like, we fought a war over fascism. It was an idea, it was big boy war, whole world, against the ideology of fascism. So,
It's fucking garbage. Christianity without the teachings of Jesus. Racist fascist nationalism is what they were teaching. What the fuck happened? We fought a war over this. Then 100 years later, it's all gone to shit.
Then 100 years later, you have Trump saying he's anti-Antifa, and Antifa just means anti-fascist. So if you're anti-fascist, that means you're fascist. This is why people call him a Nazi. Like,
Wanna be a sociologist but can't afford school. We spend money on bombs while the kids.
I want to be a sociologist but can't afford school. we spend money on bombs while the kids need food. Like, you're supposed to better yourself. There is no, the burden is on the citizen to better themselves and have a normal life that other countries enjoy, um, just by giving their citizens access to institutions and opportunities. We make Americans pay for it, not only in their labor, but to better themselves, such as education or childcare. Um, so I want to be a sociologist. I got into Western Michigan University's sociology program in Kalamazoo, Michigan, but I can't go because I can't find housing in the area, and it's been like 3 years, and I can't afford tuition. So that was always my dream. It was to be a sociologist. Um, but America's where dreams go to die. Uh, unless you have the money, dreams don't come true in America unless you have the money to afford them. And that's the message that we're sending to our citizens and children. Um, don't better yourself. Like, don't get an education. Be stupid. That's the message that the Trump administration and their actions and the rest of America is sending to young people and people like me. Um, I mean, I work my tail off. Like, I work my ass off. So I have 200 tracks, 6 books, but it all comes down to marketing again. It all comes down to money to be able to push your product. It takes money to make money, and it's pay to play in America, and everybody understands this except Americans. But they're going to find out because they won't be able to do anything with prices rising and the minimum wage not being a living wage. It's a piece of shit society.
Need food. Your priorities are so egregiously fucked.
So your priorities are so egregiously fucked, which they are in America.
Punishment should fill the richest cup.
You think punishment should fill the richest cup? We have for-profit prisons. That's what that referencing. We make money off of people's demise. Slavery is still. We still have slavery. You just need to be charged with the crime. It's the 13th Amendment. Slavery is not abolished in America. So we have incentives to racially profile black people to get them into prison, to turn them into a slave to get cheap labor. That's America for you. America did not love slavery.
Look here, America, what the fuck? You're an embarrassment. Straighten up. You think I'm real?
So America is an embarrassment, like, with how we fund, how we give bombs and weapons and funding to the Palestinian conflict, and give money and weapons to Israel. I mean, Trump's just an embarrassment. He wants to attack his own people. He wants to occupy cities. He wants to suspend habeas corpus and go after legal immigrants, citizens, and he's leveraging children to do that. He's deporting veterans and cancer patients. It's just, you're an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment. No, you're an embarrassment. I'm not proud to live in America. If I had the chance, I'd probably leave. If I had the money, I'd probably leave. Because I'd have a better life in another country. So I really don't give a fuck about what you think unless you address the real issues that I'm talking about. Which nobody seems to be able to do because they know that they're wrong. I could give a fuck what you think. Okay, and that's all I can play. So now I'm going to read the blog post I wrote for Thriller. This is on the new release blog on Fiance.com. Thriller, polemic as ethnography in hip-hop form. Thriller is my 138th official release and 222nd track published. The beat was produced by Tantu Beats and was produced by Keanu Beats. Right in line with the holiday Halloween season, Thriller expands upon the socio-political state of America and brings to light a lot of the issues that government refuses to address. It tells the cause of the problems, President Trump, to go screw himself. This is protest rap made into a seasonal reminder that your government wants you to be afraid and that the scariest monster this Halloween is in the White House. Thriller, Rap is Reckoning, Wealth, War, and Ecological Justice. Eric Leo 108's Thriller is not a party track, it's a diagnosis and provocation. The lyrics read like a field report written in heat and rage. They name the enemies that make suffering profitable. They call out the war industry, the court system that reinforces wealth preserving rulings, the moral hypocrisy of institutions that cloak extraction in ritual. They connect the climate crisis and mass extinction to class power. I'm gonna read this over again because I forgot. I'm gonna go live on Instagram. So we're now live on Instagram. We just I'm also live on YouTube and School, and we just did we just reviewed the track on YouTube and School. I get hit with, I can't do it on Instagram, that's why I don't, but I'm gonna read the blog post for the new track Thriller that came out today, Friday, October 17th, 2025. So Thriller is my 138th official release and 222nd track published. The beat was produced by Tantu Beats and was produced by Keanu Beats. Right in line with the holiday Halloween season, Thriller expands upon the socio-political state of America and brings to light a lot of issues that the government refuses to address. It tells the cause of the problems, President Trump, to go screw himself. This is protest hip-hop made into a seasonal reminder that your government wants you to be afraid and that the scariest monster this Halloween is in the White House. Thriller, Rap as Reckoning, Wealth, War, and Ecological Justice. Eric Leo 108's Thriller is not a party track, it's a diagnosis and provocation. The lyrics read like a field report written in heat and rage. They name the enemies that make suffering profitable. They call out the war industry, the court system that reinforces wealth-preserving rulings, the moral hypocrisy of institutions that cloak extraction and ritual. They connect the climate crisis and mass extinction to class power. They weaponize furious metaphor to imagine economic reversal as the only meaningful accountability. Read plainly, the song is a tour through grievance. Read carefully, it is an argument for structural change. The track opens with personal and artistic self-positioning, and Illa Spitter, who is here to heal, that double claim, skillful in form and intent on repair, frames the rest of the piece. The narrator's healing is political. Healing here means reversing policies and concentrations of power that make collective survival contingent on private profit. The lyrics pivot quickly from braggadocio to indictment. Money over people becomes an incantation. It names the organizing principle of late-stage American governments. When wealth is the primary metric, public good and human lives are subordinated. That causal linkage is the thesis of the song. The song's indictment of war industries locates one root of this political economy. Wars are not only geopolitical events, they are fiscal mechanisms. Military spending funnels public money into private profit. Contractors, weapons manufacturers, and financial networks extract vast rents from perpetual insecurity. The same class that profits from war profits from deregulation and extraction, and thus from the environmental collapse in the lyrics call the sixth mass extinction. Collapse, the lyrics call the sixth mass extinction. The rhetorical move here is to join the literal violence. The rhetorical move is to join the literal violence of bombs with the structural violence of public policy. Is to join the literal violence of bombs with the structural violence of public policy choices that redistribute wealth upward and externalize costs downward. Eric Leo's demand for agrarian reforms and a 99% tax on billionaires is not hyperbole, but a concrete economic proposal. He argues for a graduated tax system in which ordinary income is taxed progressively until wealth reaches a threshold of roughly $1 billion, at which point all additional income is taxed at 99%. The idea follows historical precedent rather than fantasy. Before Nixon and Reagan administrations rewrote tax law in favor of capital accumulation, the top federal income rate in the United States was about 97%. That structure did not strangle prosperity, it financed it. During the mid 20th century, when the wealthiest paid those rates, the nation built highways, schools, and the middle class that could afford homes and education. The post-war decade of high marginal taxation coincided with broad growth and relatively low inequality. Eric's insistence on a 99% tax rate is thus both moral and empirical. It recognizes that the first billion is not earned in the same way as wages. It is produced by compounding advantages of ownership, monopoly, and political capture. A graduated tax system with an extreme upper bracket would not punish success but recycle surplus power back into society, back into social body. Funding environmental restoration, universal health care, and public education. The goal is to prevent dynastic wealth from converting democracy into feudalism when those who benefit most from the collective infrastructure contribute proportionally. Society becomes freer, not poorer. The repeated line, money over people, also identifies the legal and structural scaffolding that makes inequality persistent. The accusation that the Supreme Court made it legal gestures to jurisprudence that treats corporations and capital as protected actors. Whether one cites specific decisions or the general jurisprudential drift toward privileged property, the effect is the same. Law often functions to entrench wealth rather than adjudicate justice. The song's diagnosis aligns with long sociological traditions that see legal structures as a key of class formation. Change the law and you can change incentives. Change incentives and you can change accumulation. Ecological destruction in the lyrics is not accidental, but ecological destruction in the lyrics is not accidental background. It is outcome and motive. The song ties infinite expansion in a finite world to doctrinal failure. That formation is concise and correct. Capitalist accumulation historically depends on expanding markets and resource fronts. When expansion is spatially and materially constrained, the commodity form bends toward intensified extraction and dispossession. The lyrical linkage of carbon polluters, profiting elites, and extinction is an insistence that climate crisis is class crisis. That linkage reframes climate policy from technocratic carbon accounting to political economy, who benefits, who pays, and who enforces punishment. The song is politically raw in its rhetorical preferences, lines that invoke horrific violence, metaphorically demanding that children of elites be R to D, require careful interpretation. Read as rhetoric, the line function as hyperbolic prophecy. The songwriter clarifies the meaning, not bodily harm to economic expropriation. Translated into political language, the metaphor imagines reparative measures that strip ill-gotten wealth from dynasties that profit from planetary ruin. That is a call for accountability through the legal and fiscal mechanisms, reparations, forced disgorgement of profits, public reclamation of land and assets, and binding of environmental remediation obligations. The metaphorical violence points to the need for material consequences, not vigilante harm. Okay, so when I say what I said, their children should be R to D, it's a metaphor for taking away their financial and economic viability, because otherwise we're going to be living in a global warming hellhole, and the people that caused it will be rewarded instead of being punished. They'll live like kings while we all suffer. So there needs to be some sort of reprehense for, like, big oil, for example, for creating the Earth's sixth mass extinction. Otherwise, they'll live like kings for destroying our environment. The song's critique of religion and nationalism further exposes how ideological shields extraction. When Christianity is reduced to cultural identity while abandoning the egalitarian ethic of its founders, moral cover is provided for material extraction. Nationalist rhetoric likewise distracts from the traditional network of capital that coordinate extraction and evade accountability. The song's anger towards such hypocrisy is sociological. It reads ideology as a technology of legitimization. By exposing the mismatch between professed values and enacted policy, the lyrics pressure listeners to reevaluate the moral underpinnings of contemporary institutions. Eric Leo's autobiographical notes, wanting to be a sociologist but unable to afford school, fold personal disaffection into social critique, into structural critique. That line matters. It reminds the listener that inequality is both abstract and intimately experienced. It grounds the theoretical claims in lived scarcity. Bombs get funding, kids go hungry. The narrative tone is not rhetorical feint. It is lived testimony of how a society prioritizing profit over care shapes trajectories and opportunities. This testimonial quality is a vital element of political effective art. It makes abstract claims legible through lived consequence. If the song is an indictment, it is also a program in miniature. The repeated refrain that they will pay and they will suffer is a call for distributive justice. In practical terms, that means several levers. First, environmental liability must be criminalized and monetized in ways that make polluters pay for full ecological remediation. Second, steeply progressive taxation and estates tax mitig- mitigate dynastic wealth transfer. Third, robust public funding for social goods, healthcare, education, housing, food, and security directs public monies from military budgets to life sustaining investments. Fourth, union strength and labor law reform shift bargaining power from capital to labor. That was fourth. Fifth, anti monopoly enforcement breaks the concentration of corporate power that capture markets and political process. Taken together, these measures translate lyrical fury into implementable policy. So the same people that caused the Earth's sixth mass extinction are the same people that caused the horrendous inequality in America. Okay, the song's demand for agrarian reforms is both symbolic and practical. Agrarian reform evokes land redistribution and local food sovereignty. In a world where industrial agriculture concentrates land and power, land reform connects ecological resilience to democratic practice. Reclaiming land for community controlled agriculture undermines the extractive agricultural model that both fuels carbon emissions and concentrates wealth. More broadly, community ownership models, cooperative community land trusts, and municipal ownership offer institutional alternatives to private monopoly for essential services. The critique of the war industry must be paired with a reallocation of spending. Military budgets are enormous and politically entrenched. Shifting even a fraction of that spending on to public health, education, and climate adaptation would materially improve human resilience. This is not naive pacifism. It recognizes that perpetual militarization is economically corrosive. By rerouting public funds toward regenerative infrastructure, states can create jobs, restore ecosystems, and reduce the profit margins that sustain war industrial capital. The tone of the song, contemptuous, sarcastic, and sometimes obscene, serves rhetorical ends. It is designed to pierce complacency. The repeated expletives and incentives and invectives function as a rhetorical sledgehammer. They refuse civility because civility has been weaponized against the poor. Yet the rhetoric is not contentless. It is tethered to evidence and structural analysis. The repeated historical reference, Reaganomics, the erosion of a minimum wage purchasing power, serve as empirical anchors. The song thus performs a hybrid genre, polemic as ethnography, rap as sociology. But rhetoric alone will not change institutions. The song implicitly recognizes this. The repeat claim they never worked for it about billionaires foregrounds the argument that much wealth today is rentier. I think that's French. Rentier. Derived not from productive labor but from ownership of assets, regulatory capture, and exploitation of labor and nature. Discursive exposure of this fact is necessary for political mobilization. If citizens see wealth as unearned, political will for redistribution becomes possible. Narrative and evidence must converge to produce policy. Finally, the song insists that art as political instrument. Eric Leo's location as an independent artist shapes the mode of address. There is no call for elite patronage. There is a call for collective imagining. Hip hop here operates as pedagogy. It's pedagogy, not tech. It's pedagogy, not technocratic. It is moral and strategic. It aims to reconstitute political imagination. What would a society oriented toward stewardship rather than extraction look like? The answer the song offers is partial and rhetorical, but it is also vital. It begins with holding the wealthy accountable and ends with rebuilding institutions that value life over profit. This treatise began by framing Thriller as part of a larger conversation in my Helm 108 Rebel Sociology course. The song functions as a lesson. It diagnoses, it provokes, and it points toward policy levers: progressive taxation, environmental liability, agrarian reform, labor power, anti-monopoly action, and reallocation of public spending from war to life. It uses metaphor to insist on material consequences for those who engineered planetary and social harm. The violent imagery in the lyrics is rhetorical shorthand for economic expropriation and restitution. That rhetorical move is not a call for bodily harm, it is a call for material justice. If the listener leaves the track with one clear instruction, it is this: treat ecological destruction and economic inequality as constitutive problems. Whether neither can be solved in isolation. The politics that sustain fossil fuel extraction are the same politics that hollow public goods and consecrate private wealth. The remedy then must be systemic. It must be legal, fiscal, and democratic. It must redistribute power and create binding accountability for those who profited from the damage. Thriller is not a policy white paper. It is a manifesto of moral clarity wrapped in streetwise language. Its value is that it makes structural critique accessible and visceral. That accessibility is political. It draws lines and names enemies and refuses false neutrality. For readers and listeners oriented toward action, it points to the highest leverage interventions: make polluters pay, dismantle dynastic accumulation, recall land for public and community use, and reroute public resources to human survival. This is a larger discussion in my Helm 108 Rebel Sociology course. Okay, that was it for the blog post. That's pretty much it. Thank you for tapping in with me. This was the Friday listening party for Thriller. If you want a deeper dive, check out that blog post that I just wrote at fience.com/blog. It's called Thriller. Stream the song on all platforms, and don't forget to leave a review for my book, especially Farming Humans, which if you understood this book, you would understand this track better. Every listen, every comment helps the movement grow. I'll see you next Friday, same time, same vibe, brand new track. Join my school community, Helm 108, for more songs, albums, books, both physical and digital merch, and more are at fience.com, Fience spelled Fiense. Okay, that's it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of my family. That took 40 minutes. You're awesome. I love you very much. And until next time, you take care, all right? See you, Instagram. Okay, YouTube. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of my family. You're awesome. I love you very much. Until next time, see you.